Greetings, hop along hollow folk. We are starting out today's video in the herbarium, and we're going to be moving around from place to place today and doing several different things. But we're going to start out here by making some potpourri. Since we're in this wonderful scented room, we're going to make it smell even better. And I want to start out by making some potpourri. This is my mix, and look at this cute little book here. Somebody sent me a whole series of these cute little journals. I get the nicest things from you, some of you, I swear. Look at how cute that is. Anyway, perfect for making mixtures, writing down recipes for potpourri. This is my mix. I'm going to use calendula, roses, rosemary. My fixative will be 1 ounce of orris root, and my scents, my oils will be chamomile, rosemary, and geranium. And you will just not believe how lovely this is. We're going to start out, though, with some chamomile tea, because since we're going to be using some chamomile oil, I want to drink one of my favorite chamomile teas, Sleepy Time, from Celestial Seasonings. Love this tea. This is one of the first herbal teas I ever had in my life, way back when I was in my 20s. These come as tea bags, and it really does help you sleep, but it also calms you down if you're a nervous sort of a person. So you don't just have to drink it at night. It's great for during the day too. We'll let that steep for a while. All right, we're going to start out with our dry ingredients. I'm just using half a cup scoops, but the dry ingredient amount is really up to you. I don't make it in great big batches because I store it in like small tea cans. But I'm going to start out with some calendula. And if you've been saving your dried plants over the summer, hopefully you'll have some of these things. If not, you can buy these dried ingredients online in bulk. And I'm also going to use roses. Oh, you just wouldn't believe how good that smells. This is actually I think I'm going to do a little more on the roses. So 2 scoops of roses. And then just a smaller amount, I think, of rosemary. Those are the dry ingredients that we're going to use. Okay, there they are. Mix them all up. This is just going to make a little bit, but enough probably to fill 2 sachets at least. You can tuck these into your drawer or just set it out in a room after it's been cured for a while. I'm using orris root powder. This is something you can buy online as well. In fact, I think I got this off of Amazon, and I'm just going to guess that I need about 1 ounce. So I'm going to use just a scoop, a little scoop, about a tablespoon really. And this is the fixative that is going to be inundated with the essential oils, which are rosemary, and chamomile, and geranium. I tend to go a little heavier on the geranium because it is so nice. Now, you don't need more than a few drops. I'm going to go with, come on now. This takes a while to start dripping. 1, come on. I'm going to go with about 3 or 4 drops if I can get it to come out. 2, and 3, and 1 more. 4 drops of that. What you're going to do is just going to blend it in with your fixative. All right, a couple drops of rosemary. And a couple of drops of chamomile. Oh, that's more than a couple of drops. That's okay. You know what? That's actually the scent that seems to be the most pronounced in this mixture. You can mix all that up. Sometimes it's better to do this with your fingers if you don't mind your fingers smelling like these herbs all day, which I don't, but so simple as that. It's so easy. This is such an easy thing to do, and it smells so good. Okay, now mix the fixatives and the essential oils with your potpourri, dry ingredients. Mix it all up. Sometimes I don't think a wooden spoon is the way to go, because I think a lot of the oil gets saturated into that wood. There. And now you're going to put this in a nice, dry, secure, sealed container for a little while. Do it at least 2 weeks, but you know, you don't even have to. You could set this out in the room just like this. The last batch I made, I left it in this room, didn't cover it, just left it in the bowl, and every time I walked into this building, oh my gosh, it smells so great. So it does keep its scent, but it tends to keep a little bit better if you put it in a container, which is what I did with the last batch. So if you're wondering what to do with all your old tea tins, you can store your potpourri in those tins because they have a really secure, tight lid. So there's our potpourri for this day, and I think I will probably put this in some sachets a little bit later. Now let's move on to the seeds that you can plant in November. Straight into your garden without any hassle whatsoever. Well, in a week it will be November, and that's a good time to plant a lot of your perennials that like a period of cold. So I've got several different things right here. Some will go directly into the garden, be sown right into the garden, and then I'll just forget all about them. And some of them I'm going to sow in trays in an unheated greenhouse. So there are so many in this list, but I'm just going to show you a couple. This was Armeria. I'm going to show it to you in my garden right now because I sowed it in the spring. It did really slow. It was just a slow mover. It wasn't doing anything. It didn't do anything in the garden until recently. And in September, it actually started to grow like crazy. So it likes the cold. A lot of things have to have the cold. Vervain and verbena. Coneflowers. I'm going to show you a very good success story with the coneflowers that were just sown in some trays just last month, straight out of the garden. Penstemons. Hollyhocks, foxglove, rudbeckia, lupin. There's so many of Sweet William, dianthus. There's so many, but we can't do everything. Now I am in the herbarium. Absolutely love this little room. And it was the potting shed. The fact is, I don't do any potting in here at all. I do store seeds in here, and I do dry plants in here, and I also make potpourri in here. And I just like to sit in here and relax, to be honest with you. But in the winter, and when it starts to get cold, I move all the seeds out here. So at this time of year, this is when I store all the seeds back here in the herbarium because it stays so nice and cool in here, and these seeds need to be kept dry and cool and safe. So usually I learn my lesson about keeping them out in the open. I keep them in jars, or I tighten them up in this set of drawers. Seeds stay very safe in this little chest, which holds a whole lot of seeds. seed packets. And this is just a chest that I purchased from a friend of mine, and then I just covered it in transfers. I really love it. One thing I've learned about transfers is you have to keep them out of direct light. So if you're putting it even in a room in your house, don't let the sunlight come in on it from a window or anything, because these things fade out. Fortunately, these have stayed intact because they've always been out of the light. Pretty nice too. The set of drawers stayed pretty nice. And this bunch of seed boxes. The transfers have not faded on these either. So let's take our tea to the little greenhouse and see what we can accomplish in there. Okay, well, here we are into the little greenhouse, and you'll notice that I don't have a door. If you were with me when I built this greenhouse about 2 years ago, I have an antique door from England with stained glass in it that I completely restored to go onto this greenhouse, and it was on it for 2 years. But as the sun was beating on it and the weather was hitting it, it just started to fall apart. So I guess I didn't do a very good job of restoring it, and I have to start all over again. So it's up in the barn, and in the meantime, I don't have a door. I will say this, though. This greenhouse, as small as it is, has been absolutely a blessing for me. And you don't have to have a greenhouse. I went for years without one. I worked on the porch. I worked with a cold frame. It didn't really matter that much. It's just that having a greenhouse is just really a nice thing to have when you have trays and trays of plants. Okay, so here we are back in the greenhouse, and like I said, it's a very small greenhouse, but it perfectly suits my needs. I don't need anything big. You can get so much in a little bitty space like this. It's just amazing, the storage that you can have underneath your shelves, on the floor, up above, all over the place. You can have storage, and that's been great for me. But right now I want to do some experimentation just for the month of November. And a lot of these seeds have already had their cold stratification because I've had them stored in the refrigerator for months, absolutely months. So I want to take a lot of these and try these out in the trays in the unheated greenhouse and see how they do as far as germination goes. And I will let you know what happens here. I'll do some experimentation here and let you know. These are vervain, which is simply Monocereus verbena, just another name for it. And I'm trying some under humidity domes and some not. Let's just see what works best. Now here's a tray that absolutely amazed me. I just had an empty tray of seed starting mix sitting on a table on the porch. And I collected some of my coneflower seeds straight out of the garden. And I just sprinkled them on the top and kept them wet. This was in September when everything started to get cool. And they have really done really well. I have never had this much germination with coneflowers in a tray ever. And that's because I have been planting them at the wrong time every year. I've been planting them actually in the spring, in trays, in the greenhouse, under a humidity dome. And they don't do anything. But this, outside, on the porch, in the weather, in the cool, I would say, now these were just seeded a few days ago, so there's nothing going on right here yet. But just look at these healthy little plants. They're just about ready to be put into different, bigger containers. So just shows you that they have to have a certain temperature to germinate. The same thing happened with a tray of hollyhocks. And I know this is the same case with also foxglove. So I'm going to be using the trays in this unheated greenhouse right now, because it will start to get a lot cooler, and see what happens with the rest of these that need to be, or that want to be sown in the colder weather. I'll do some of them in the ground, but most of all I want to see what goes on with the trays, because when your plants are in the ground and you just throw some seed down on the ground, you never know if it got eaten by critters or it just disappeared amid all the other foliage, and sometimes you just don't even realize whatever happened to it. So if all goes well over the next couple of months, I could have some pretty healthy-sized coneflowers to transplant into the garden in the spring, and that will make me very happy because I love coneflowers. I've been so thrilled over the month of October with all the blossoms in the garden. I think I've had more blooms in the garden this month than I've had in any given month over the summer. Just beautiful colors coming up right now. And I'm telling you, I am constantly amazed at God's creation. I mean, just look at the design in these petals. I don't know how anyone can look at a flower, the color, the design, look at the geometry. And I'm not even mathematical, but look at the geometry in this dahlia. Look at the perfection right there. And here we have some little bitty creatures taking a nap on the zinnias that are passing out. There we got a little ladybug. Here's some little small thing crawling around. I think they're going to be fine. They don't have a very long life, so I might as well, let them live the life that they have been given. But this to me speaks so amazingly of God's creation. When you just look at the colors, the scents, the shapes, the sizes, the vibrancy of all this beauty. And still at this time of the year, and then you remember, it all came from a little seed. These are some blue morning glories that I collected this morning. I find it absolutely amazing. I mean, if you think about the fact that we can even see color, because our eyes are so brilliantly designed to see colors and shapes, and that we have senses and that we can smell these things. It's just always a constant joy to me to see all the beauty, the absolute beauty that's around us if you just look for it. So you process for sowing in November. Some perennial seed that likes the cold. It's just like doing it in the spring. Clear a little piece of land, smooth it out nicely. Sprinkle your seed in, depending on what kind it is. It may or may not need to be covered. Lupin is a fairly decent sized little seed, so I'm just going to cover that very, very lightly. Sprinkle some lupin in here, add a little, maybe a little bit of compost on the top, and just leave it alone. And that's all there is to it. Okay, so we have moved into another room. We're in studio number 2. I was cleaning studio number 1 the other day and was so happy when I found this basket full of goodies. I haven't seen these in a couple years, completely forgot that I had them. But what they are a bunch of needle felted heads that I had forgotten all about. And why did I completely forget about these? I think it's probably because I was practicing. I was trying to learn how to make little cats. And so I made many little cats. I guess I wasn't happy with them, although I look at them now and I think, these are actually pretty cute. Looking at these little heads, I mean, there's a little badger and a skunk, and this is a pretty cute little badger. I think make a pretty cute little badger right there, and with a swivel head, because that's how I used to make them, and a little possum without her ears. But as I'm looking at all these little heads, I'm thinking, why did I just put these away? Why did I just put these aside and forget all about them and stop working on them? And it just brought me to the thought that as creative people, and many of you are creatives, you are creative artists, maybe you are quilters, maybe you do embroidery, maybe you do needlework, maybe you're painters, sculptors. Whatever your creativity is, it's a gift. It's an absolute gift. You see, not everybody is creative. Some people don't even have much of an imagination. And that is sad for those of us who have a huge imagination and we really want to go as far with it as we can. I guess what I'm saying is, I'm going to take these little things, and I think I probably put them aside because I thought they weren't good enough. They weren't good enough. Well, you know what? I can make them good enough. I can improve these little heads just by putting in a little more work into each one of them. Give them some bodies, give them some personality, give them some whiskers, and make lots of wonderful little creatures. What I'm saying is, don't give up on your art. Don't give up on your craft. Take it as far as you can. Learn as much as you can. If you have to take a class, a painting class, or a class in quilt making or basket making, whatever it is, go ahead and do it. Don't let your talent and your creativity go to waste. Don't take things and just put them aside and then forget about them, and then they never get finished. And I am so guilty of this. I have some beautiful drawings. I have them to put into a book, and they're just sitting in my satchel. And every year I say, I've got to finish these, and I don't do it. Well, I'm 72 years old. How much more time do I have to do it? I'm saying, get back to your art. Get back to your creativity. If it's only for a half an hour every day, make the time to be creative. Take the time to learn something more about the craft or the art that you love to do. And just do it for the glory of God. I mean, I'm not saying you have to make religious art or anything like that. I'm just saying that God gave you a gift, and you need to take that gift and use it. Use that gift and invite the Lord in as you're working to help you along and to give you the talent and the skill to just keep going at whatever it is you want to learn, or whatever it is you think that you're good at or you could be good at. So I would like to spend some time over the next couple months talking about art, trying to encourage you and encourage myself. When I encourage you, I encourage myself too, to get things done, to do the best work that I can, the best work that you can, and never give up. Now, I'm not telling you to fool yourself. If you don't have talent, you don't have talent. But if you do have talent, you know it, and you will be able to expand it and be inspired by different things. Let me show you something that I was about to give up on, and then I decided, no, I'm not going to give up on that. I'm going to fix it. About a year ago, I had a customer coming over, and I wanted to get a lot of things together for her to look at so she could have a good choice of what she wanted to take home, who she wanted to adopt. And I started to make this otter. Now, this otter appeared in the video about a week ago, and he looked completely different. He was terrible. He didn't even look like an otter. He just looked funky, and you couldn't even tell what he was. So I said, I'm not going to give up on him. It's been a year. I'm not throwing this little guy away. I'm going to fix him and make him look more like an otter. So I did. I got out my illustrations of otters. I got out photographs of otters, and I started to really concentrate on making him much, much better. And he can still use quite a bit of work. He's not finished yet. I have a lot of things to do to him. But I think that he is probably at least 90% better than he was before I gave up on him. So now I think he's going to be pretty cute. And it's just an example of taking something and not quitting on it. And if you have to start over from scratch, maybe you do. But just keep plugging away. If you need inspiration, find places where you can get it. Look at other artists' work. Don't copy other artists. That's not a good thing to do. Don't copy them. Go your own direction with art and craft and find your own way. You can learn a lot from other artists, but try to make it your own. Even gardening can be an art. Because if you have an artistic temperament and you have creativity, you can turn your garden space into a garden canvas. And you can always tell the difference between a garden that was created by somebody who's really, really, good at planting and growing things, but they don't have artistic skill to tie it all together. You can always tell the difference when you see a garden like that. And there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, I wish I could grow better vegetables. I can't. But I do know one thing. I could have a pretty nice layout in my vegetable garden, even if very little is growing there. So actually, that's not the point. The point is, let's do some videos with some encouraging art tips and see where that goes, see where that leads us. Now, on to our antique of the week. And our antique of the week is something everybody knows about. Everybody's heard of it, and you probably had one or two in your life, and that is the antique teddy bear. Now, most of you probably have a pretty fair idea of where the teddy bear came from, how it evolved into what it is today. I mean, millions and millions of teddy bears have been sold throughout the years, but what's the origin of the teddy bear? You may be familiar with this cartoon that appeared in the Washington Post in 1902. It appears to be the inspiration behind the birth of the teddy bear. Here is President Roosevelt, who had gone on a bear hunting trip, and he refused to shoot the little bear cub because he didn't think it was right to shoot the little bear cub. Well, the truth of the story is quite a bit different. The cartoonist took a lot of artistic license because the truth of the matter is that the picture was very misleading. The bear in question was not a baby bear cub. It was a 235-pound old black bear tied up to a tree, which the president refused to shoot because of the fact that it was tied up to a tree and it didn't seem fair. If you want to read the whole story, you can find that online. Now, in seeing this cartoon in the Washington Post, an enterprising candy store owner named Morris Mitchton in Brooklyn, New York, created, basically overnight, he created a little stuffed bear covered in plush, and he called it Teddy's Bear. He put it in his shop window, and it became an absolute sensation, and everybody wanted a Teddy's Bear. So this certain gentleman formed the Ideal Novelty and Toy Company. You've probably heard of Ideal Toys. They've been around now for these very, very long time. And he did it to produce more bears, more and more bears. But there's a contradictory story as well. There are two other stories as to the origins of the teddy bear. If you've heard of Steiff toys, and if you're a collector, you probably have little stuffed Steiff toys from Germany. Margaret Steiff was the founder of that company, and I think it was her son, Richard Steiff, in 1903 was developing his own teddy bear. It was a jointed bear with jointed arms and jointed legs and covered in mohair, and he introduced it to a toy fair, where it was very, very popular and also just as popular as the Ideal teddy bear. Another twist on the story of the origin of the teddy bear is that the Steiff teddy bears were purchased by the dozens by Teddy Roosevelt's daughter to decorate a banquet table for a party that was being given for the president. The table was covered in bears. They were simply table decorations, props, and these became known as Teddy's Bears. So you have three different choices on which story you want to believe for the origins, but I think they're probably all true. The Ideal teddy bear was created in 1902, and the Steiff teddy bear was created in 1903. And if we look at our book that we love to look at so often, right here, we have lots of wonderful teddy bears here for sale, and the year on this was 1914. So in 1914, they were selling plush teddy bears, fine gray, long, silky plush teddy bears on wheels, amusing tumbling teddy bears, wind-up teddy bears, And 1917, we have teddy bears for boys and girls for $1.45. But about the 1980s, teddy bear craze really took over, and people all over the place were collecting antique teddy bears, also making jointed teddy bear reproductions. Now, I happened upon this teddy bear, oh my goodness, I don't know, 30 years ago maybe. It's in very poor condition. It's not the most handsome or pretty bear I've ever seen, but it has been loved. Look at that. It's absolutely got no mohair on it at all. It's just been loved off. And you can see that it's stuffed with Excelsior. Now, they used Excelsior stuffing for teddy bears and stuffed animals all the way up into the 1950s, so that's not really a good way to judge the age of your teddy bear. But this one also has jointed arms. It had little felt feet, glass eyes, of course. And my goodness, it really was a loved teddy bear. Now, when I got it, I don't think it had a mouth or a nose, and I had to stitch those on. I might have even replaced the eyes. I think it did have little black eyes. So this teddy bear, I think back in a long time ago, 20, 30 years ago maybe, I paid about $75 for it. But most of all, why I liked it was I liked the dress. This little dress came on it, and I think the dress is just as special as the bear. But these are so funny. These little bears right here. Teddy bears were so popular that they began to use them as carnival gifts. You know, when you played the darts or whatever it was, break the balloon with a dart, I don't know, and you win a prize. These were prizes. These are carnival bears, and not a single one of them is very cute. I mean, really, if they were cute, it's just because they're so homely that they're cute. But every one of these also is jointed, filled with Excelsior, and totally loved to bits because they just simply don't have any mohair left on them, except this one. This one got quite a bit of mohair on it. And I recall buying these. Wow. That was even longer ago than 30 years ago. I bought these in this little brass bed, just like this, for $75, and I thought I was getting a pretty good deal. There's nothing special or valuable about these bears other than the fact that it's a piece of history. The valuable ones generally are the Steiff bears, and I don't have any of those. But when I was sort of into bears, I did buy a few of the reproduction bears. This beautiful bear right here, I think, would probably be a pretty good indication of what a Steiff bear might have looked like. It's beautifully jointed. It's covered in mohair. It was made by a bear maker in Wisconsin that I used to do shows with, and she would have a booth full of jointed teddy bears like this. This is really a beautiful bear, but it's not an antique. It's a reproduction. And this is also a reproduction bear, and it wasn't marked, so I don't know who made it. Oh, artists, always mark your work. You really need to mark your work somehow. Write a little tag or stitch a tag to your sewing, or just make sure that your work is signed, because someday that might be important to somebody if they want to look you up and find out about your origins anyway. So here's a great example of artists who did a very good job recreating something special that is loved to this very day, and that would be the teddy bear. So that's the Antique of the Week. I hope you enjoyed being with us today. Love having all of you here with me, and we will see you next time in Hopalong Hollow. Bye-bye.